What's up guys, Justin here with the CGEssentials.com. So just a reminder that the Blender Market Summer Sale closes later tonight. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. So there's a ton of add-ons and other things currently on sale in the Blender Market. You can see the most popular ones on the front page right here. You can also view the popular items just by opening up this link right here. And then you can kind of scroll through and see some of these. What I'm going to do in this video is just talk you through very quickly how to use some of these add-ons. All right, so Random Flow is a tool from Blender Guppy designed to help you basically create random meshes. It's really great for like sci-fi generation, other things like that. You can see how it's really good at generating all of these little surfaces, other things like that. If you get good at it, you can create really cool things. Basically, the way that one's going to work is you're going to take an object like this one, and I'm gonna go ahead and subdivide it one more time or two more times, but you can take that object, select it, and then you can actually use the tool in order to do either random extrusions, and what it's going to do is it's going to come in here and it's going to do different like subdivisions and other things like that. So notice how as I add these in here, it's going to create these different subdivisions in here like this, and you can do a lot of different things with this. Obviously I'm not doing it justice with this amount of speed, but it definitely gives you the ability to quickly generate these random surfaces with greebles or whatever you would want. I really just wanted an excuse to say greebles. So you can also use this to randomly generate panels in here. You can adjust the heights that are selected. You can adjust the way that those panels are inset. So just a ton of different things in here in order to generate those really cool sci-fi surfaces. So if you're looking for some examples of how this can be used, you can definitely check out Blender Guppy's Twitter feed, where he shows you just tons and tons of examples of things that he's generating using Random Flow. All right, so next up we've got Conform Object from Mark Kingsnorth. I love the new update of this add-on. This isn't even the first time I've talked about it this week, but it's basically a tool for bending and deforming objects along other objects. We'll check out an example like this one, but basically what you do is you just take a mesh, like this one, select a mesh that you want to conform it along, then right click and do a conform object. And so what that's going to do is that's going to take this object and it's going to conform it along this surface, right? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide this grid right here. But what makes this new addition so much better is if you go into the settings under deformation grid, there's an option to create a lattice. So when you click in here, what this is going to do is this is going to generate a lattice that's going to allow you to adjust the way that that object is in here. So you can adjust things like the offset on the surface if you want to do that, but then you can also click on your lattice, tab in here, and adjust it so that your object actually fits along the surface. So you actually have control over being able to fix things like this if it's not doing what you want. So Wrap Master is a tool for quickly wrapping like bandages or ropes or fabric around your objects. It's surprisingly easy to use considering the complexity of what you're trying to do. Basically the way that it works is it comes with these assets, and you basically take these assets and you just align them with your object. So you get them close like this, but then you tab into edit mode, and what you can do is you can actually like move this around. So this kind of like bounding box cage that's in here, you can move it, and you can also like scale it out like this. So you basically set this up so this object or this cage is kind of around your object, but then you can take this whole thing and you can adjust things about it. So first off, you can set it to like snap to your surface, right? So if you want it to snap to your object right here, you can set a little bit of an offset, but then you can just come in here and you can just kind of edit and adjust this a little bit more. But then there's presets in here for things like the length of the wrap, the number of turns, other things like that. So it's actually a pretty easy to use implementation of a tool for creating and generating wraps around objects in Blender. All right, so Human Generator has been around for a while, and they just released the newest version this week. This is a tool for creating, generating, and customizing character models in Blender. The way this one works is you select a human, right? So you just pick whoever you want your starting human to be. You have options for both male and female characters in here. So we'll go with one of these, and what you do is you can just generate a human. And so when you do this, you can adjust pretty much everything about your character, from body composition to things like muscles, other things like that. But then you can also adjust things like the character age, right? So if we come in here, we adjust the character age. So we're going to zoom in. Notice how as you adjust the age, you get more wrinkles and other things like that. But then you can adjust pretty much everything about this character. So you can randomize the facial structure if you want to do that. You can adjust things like the hair. So we're going to go toggle the hair on, but there's different hairstyles that you can select, right? So we could select like this one right here, and the hair is going to change inside of Blender. So you can use this in order to really quickly generate character models inside of Blender. All right, so Cablerator is a tool I've not talked about in a while. I probably owe you guys an updated in-depth tutorial actually, but it's a tool for quickly generating cables on surfaces. So there's a ton of stuff you can do, but basically the way that it works is you just come into Blender, you do a Shift A, and it adds an option for Cablerator, and you can actually create a cable. So you can click in here, it says to click to add a cable, so you can set a couple different points, but then you can adjust things about these cables, right? So you can adjust the tension, which is going to adjust the way the cable works, as well as doing other things like being able to set different profiles. So for example, if I do a B, right, there's a couple different built-in profiles that you can use in here, like this. But then in addition to this, we've also got the ability to, if we were to create another cable in here, you can do a Shift A, Cablerator, you can draw cables as well. And so you can use it in order to quickly add cables on surfaces. You can also use custom profiles in here. So if I click in here like this, set 2 points, and then I was to hit the B key and use one of these preset profiles in here. Well, notice how you can actually come in here and adjust that, right? Because this is 3 curves right here, but if I scale this down, I can use this in order to adjust the profile that's in here. So these are kind of live and you can actually adjust them. And then note that these are following along a curve. So if you do want to adjust the way that the cables are in here, you can do that as well. So if you want to quickly add cables, this also has tools for adding ends and other things like that. And so I highlighted this one this week, but Sanctus Library is a collection of procedural materials in Blender. So the way this one works is it's just got a bunch of different materials in here that you can use. So say we wanted to apply like a metal material or something like that. Maybe we'll go with we'll go with this anodized green, but you just take it and you apply it to an object. Well, the cool thing about these materials is they're actually procedural. And so what that means that if you go into the material settings like this, you've actually got options in here to adjust things like the scale of the texture that's in here, right? So you can make this bigger or smaller. You can adjust the roughness, which is going to adjust the way that this works. But most, if not all of these, are adjustable, at least in a certain way. And you can easily apply other materials in here as well. So notice how we can adjust like the scale of the materials using the sliders right here. But these create really realistic materials that you can actually adjust and change in Blender. So next up, we've got Decal Machine. We talked about Decal Machine a lot on the channel. This is basically like the premier decal editing tool for Blender. Basically what it does is it allows you to use 2-dimensional images in here in order to add depth and detail to objects without adding a bunch of geometry. The way this one works is you just select an object, then if I was to tap the D key, what it's going to do is it's going to pop up a menu that allows you to access different decals. So you can access these built-in decals. So if you wanted to create like a label or something like that, I can take that, move that around here a little bit, but then I can tap the D key and I can actually project that onto an object like this. But I can come in here and I can adjust things like the height of the decal, but then when you start getting into some of the other decals that are in here, this gets more interesting. You can do a D, and you can use these to actually add things that look like actual geometric detail. So I can bring this in here like this, but notice what it does is it projects it along this surface in here, but then you can tap the D key and you can adjust things like the height off of the surface, as well as things like the parallax. It's actually going to make this object look 3-dimensional inside of Blender without you actually having to add any additional geometric detail. So in addition, Decal Machine also supports you adding your own decals in here as well. It's a very deep add-on for decal work in Blender. All right, so GeoScatter is a tool specifically designed to help you scatter objects in Blender. This, I usually say, is probably the most feature-packed add-on that I have tried in Blender. It has so much stuff in here, but it makes this really easy. All right, so the way this works is you select an emitter, like this plane. I'm gonna make sure I've applied my rotation and scale, but you can either pick scatter presets in here, which are basically ways that things scatter, or you could do what I usually do, which is the biome scatter. The biomes are basically built in or purchased different biomes of different objects, right? So either through scatter itself or through other asset kits. So if I was to take this and let's say I wanted to scatter some bushes on this surface, you can just click on it. It's going to use that biome in order to put this along a surface. And so what this is going to do is it's going to scatter these objects along this surface, but it's going to do it in a way where they're adjustable. So you could adjust, it's going to set this up where you can adjust number of instances, and it's also going to cull and hide some of these to keep your performance working. And then when you render your object out, it's going to bring those objects in rendered. So very strong tool for scattering objects in Blender. And so one cool thing about GeoScatter is it also supports external assets. So you don't just have to do plants, you could also do things like this trash kit. So this trash kit comes with basically garbage assets in it, but you can use the biomes from this with GeoScatter. So if I was to select this surface right here in my biomes, I could go into trash kit and I could find a trash or garbage preset that I liked, click on it, and bring it in. And so this system is also adjustable. So I could come in and adjust number of instances of different objects in here in order to quickly create other kinds of scatters as well. So being able to bring in those external systems makes GeoScatter even more powerful. And then speaking of asset kit, they just rolled out a new kit of crystals that are procedural geometry nodes based crystals inside of Blender. So you can use this in order to open up and use those geometry node assets in order to create your own customized crystals. All right, so basically the way that these work is you bring the objects in, right? Like the crystals. And you can adjust things like the density. You can adjust things like the patches or number of patches in here, as well as the size. There's just a ton of stuff in here that you can do with these crystals in order to adjust them. Now I'm gonna get in depth with these in the future, but if you are looking for something that generates realistic looking crystals, you should definitely check out Crystal Kit. All right, so that's where I'm gonna end this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about any of these add-ons or anything you'd like me to talk about in the future. I just love having that conversation with you guys. Remember, the sale does close tonight. I will link to that on this page. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.